We are live, folks. It's time for Shopper Intelligence Live. Good morning. Hello. How are you? I hope you're safe wherever you are today. My name's David, and this is another live webinar from Shopper Intelligence. Today, we're talking on-premise liquor. And as we record this session, we hoped, as I'm sure we all hoped, of course, that by now we'd be talking about a fully open, a fully rejuvenated channel. And oh, how the signs were good. The signs were so very good earlier this year. Of course, now hospitality is yet again, as many people are, doing it tough. So certainly our thoughts go out to everyone who's being affected by the current situation. But on to you guys. Okay, let's get the conversation going nice and early, shall we, team? Who's doing what today? If you're in lockdown, type locked in the chat for us. If you happen to be one of the lucky ones that is free to do what you want to do, then type free in the chat box, and we'll see what the balance is out there right now. I can see a lot of people locked, and a few frees as well. There's too many even coming in for me to. Somebody says freedom. You're out in the West, Carly, aren't you? I think that's why you've got freedom, relative freedom. Look, great. So I hope wherever you are, as I said, you're doing okay and you're getting through this. I've talked to a lot of people in liquor over the recent months and recent weeks and recent years. And when it comes to on-premise, there are a couple of things that get said over and over again. Tell me if either of these resonate with you. Number one is that it's a big black hole. It's just super hard to grapple with, sketchy information, unreliable information. That's probably the biggest thing out there. If that's the biggest thing for you, type black in the chat. Let us know if that's the biggest issue. But number two, the thing that I'm hearing more and more often at the moment is how venues are starting to push suppliers harder for insights. We've got a predominantly supplier-orientated audience today, but I do know we do have a few operators out there as well. So good morning to you as well. Great to have you. Pushing harder for insights, pushing harder for the so whats. So if that is your biggest challenge, go ahead and type venues in the chat box. Not that they're a problem, but the challenge of more insights. And if it's something else, then perhaps put that in as well. So either black hole or insights. A little bit less take up on this one. Maybe it's neither of those things. If it's neither of those things, then let me know. Go ahead and type it in the chat box. Here we go. Thank you, Stephen. Insights. Chris says it's the black hole. Took everyone a while just to have a little think. That's okay. It's still early in the morning. 50 Shades of Grey. Thank you, Carly. Carly, you're on good form this morning. I like this. Lots of insights. Yes, indeed. So more demanding channel, which I suppose just compounds the fact that there is this black hole around data and insights. So, well, this is what this session is all about, folks. And this is what we're all about and why we exist. Whether it's in the on-premise, the off-premise, whether it's in grocery, we want to help you put shoppers or patrons or drinkers at the heart of the conversation, because that is where your growth lives. Now, in this session, we're going to be pulling insights from our brand new on-premise research. I don't want to focus on that too much today, though, because I want to really make sure that you're taking value from the insights that we're sharing today. If you have questions about the research, if you want to get hold of it, if you just want to talk to us about it, definitely do that. Definitely reach out. Let us know in the chat, and I guarantee that we'll follow up with you on that afterwards. But for today, for the next 45 minutes or so, I just want to focus on giving you some really useful ideas, some really useful insights that you can take away with you today that are going to help you and your business. Hopefully, when things open back up and you can go out hard with your trading partners and really make some good stuff start to happen. I hope that's okay. Give us a thumbs up if you're on board with that idea. And I can see, as we've seen a load of people getting involved with the chat already, Ming. Insights, said Duncan. Any thumbs ups? Tell me you're on board. Tell me you're good with the program, the plan. Here we go. My thumbs ups are not coming through, but there's blank boxes. Can you sing thumbs up, Ming?
Now I am. Took a little bit.
Otherwise, I just thought it was silence.
They're all thumbs up.
Excellent. Good. All right. Good news. Thank you, everyone. And of course, yes, today is being recorded. And yes, you will get that recording later on today. Now, what have we got coming up? Well, as ever, it's not just going to be my voice that you're stuck with for the next 45 minutes. So you've already heard Ming's voice there. I'm going to introduce you to her, my partner in crime on liquor, in just a moment. Excuse me. Then we're going to get straight into a framework to help you get more precise, more specific a more targeted understanding of your shoppers or your patrons in on-premise. A couple of examples there. After that, Ming's going to shine some light on some of the critical choices people are making in on-premise and how that has a big bearing on where and how you communicate to drinkers. And then finally, probably the one that many of you be most interested in, brand. Brand where it counts. Where does it count? Where do you need to be? And what is the opportunity that's at stake there anyway? We're going to take questions and comments through the course of the event, but we'll stop at the end and address some more of your questions that we haven't had time to get to anyway as well. Don't wait until then. You're using the chat, which is great. If you've got questions, you've got comments, keep your fingers tapping. Let us know what's on your mind. Let's keep this interactive, keep it engaging. I hope it will be that kind of a session. Now then, I mentioned in the virtual studio with me today is Ming. Hello, Ming.
Hey, everyone.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Now, Ming has a super pedigree in liquor. She works with a great many of you actually on a day-to-day basis, and she's got some specific supply side experience in on-premise as well. So, Ming, I was just going to ask you: does that notion of the black hole in on-premise, does that resonate with anything you've experienced in the past at all?
Yeah, definitely. So think about all the information you've got in the off-prem, and in the on-prem has no such luxury at all. So just even thinking about who your shoppers are, what they're drinking, what they're doing, it's all just a massive black hole in the on-prem.
I have to say, it has always sounded extremely tough, extremely hard going. And I know possibly even a couple of people that I saw signed up for this session who have moved recently from grocery over to liquor. And I think they've been taken aback a bit by just how big the difference is in terms of breadth and depth of information. And that's probably thinking about off-premise even, not even on-premise, that's available between the two industries. So I think this is quite a noticeable difference between the channels, right?
Yeah, so I did that move too from grocery to liquor, and that's already a challenge in itself, but on-prem it's just a lot harder than it should be.
It is. Well, we're here to help with that today. So thank you, Ming. More from Ming in just a couple of minutes' time. Now, speaking of who's out there and what we have to share, I know there are a lot of shopper intelligence newbies, definitely webinar newbies that are out there today. If that's you, it's great to have you with us. I mean that very sincerely. It's a real pleasure to be reaching out to new people and extending our network. Maybe give us a little sign if that's you. Type a little newbie in the chat. Let us know who you are. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but it's important, if you're not familiar with the methodology, to understand three things. Number one, it's an online post-visit survey. Very important. Number two, it's based on the actual experience of a drinker or a shopper in other channels in a specific category and a specific venue. And number three, what happened there? Got gremlins. And number three, this is an important point, it's designed so that you can benchmark and compare against a whole variety of different variables in order to find your growth opportunities. And that is the real gold that you want to be able to get from your data set, that relativity. And that's the foundation of everything that we do at Shopper Intelligence. So if you are new to us, that's a good basis, I think, on which to be thinking about this as we go through the next half an hour or so. Now it's time to go to that slide. And as I just have a quick flick and see what else we've got going on in the chat. Megan says, good morning, great to be here. Thank you, Megan, great to have you. Locked. Lots of us locked. Yeah, well, look, the sun is shining. So when you go for your daily walk, at least it will be warm, I hope, where you are. Kylie, newbie, Stephen, newbie, thank you. Great to have you with us. I'm really excited that you're on board with us today. Okay, let's get going, shall we? Our first tip or idea, if you like, of the day is very simple. Get specific. Now, easier said than done, perhaps, given what we've talked about and the black hole and the challenges around data. In order to do that, you need some sort of structure. You need some sort of order to frame your thinking around. And this is one of the key things that's often missing in the on-premise. It's so fragmented a market. It's so disparate in terms of delivery, in terms of data, in terms of information. It's just very hard to apply a coherent structure in order to go and deliver a strategy, even to behave tactically. It's very challenging. So let me put this on the table for you this morning. Very similar in its foundations to our approach across other channels, and you'll recognize some of these aspects perhaps from our off-premise coverage as well. at the heart of it all lies the DNA of your drinker or your patron. Who are they? Who is it that you're trying to go after? Who is it that you're trying to target? Don't start with your brand. Don't start with your marketing campaigns. Start at the beginning and understand the who. After that, then you can begin to examine the choices that those shoppers or those drinkers are making. This is the how they've come to buy what they're buying, drink what they're drinking. And then finally, in this outer ring, that's where you bring brand into play. What is the role of brand? What is the right time, the right place, the right way to be communicating and addressing and driving your brand messages? And by approaching your strategy in this way, you're covering the who, the how, the what. What you're going to find is that you're much better placed to understand the why behind drinkers' behavior. Why did they do what they did? And once you know that, that's when you're going to be better able to influence their behavior, and you can do that much more effectively. So, simple framework, the DNA, the choices, the brand, work from the center out, cover the who, the how, the what, and that will enable you to influence the why much more effectively. So let's take a look at some of the questions that sit right in the center there within the DNA. If you can't define the DNA or simply the profile of your target audience, then you're obviously fighting an uphill battle from the start, from the get-go. Of course, this flow that I'm about to put up in front of you, I'm not suggesting that this flow is rigid. I'm not suggesting that you have to go start at the top left and go sequentially through every one of these questions. You know, how long they drink for doesn't have to come before how often, how much they spend doesn't have to come after how long they drink with or who they drink with, so long as you're able to tick off each of these boxes before you move on to those questions about brand and those questions about path to purchase. In reality, this type of analysis, of course, is going to reveal a variety of different profiles, maybe by venue type, certainly by drink type, depending on your business and where you play. But these questions are critical to answer. I'll say there are a few more as well, which I haven't included on this slide. But these are the ones that are really at the center of what you want to be starting with to build a strong foundation and as a base for a strong and compelling strategy that you can take out and discuss with venues and partners. Now, that last question box there, which was what's important to on-premise drinkers, you have to be across that. And there's an associated question, which if you're familiar with what we do, you'll know it very well. It is how well are those things that are important being delivered? So those two are foundational. They do create the foundations of your approach. What to focus on, what to invest in, indeed even what to pull back on, which is perhaps being delivered very well or which is relatively less important to your target group. But there's also another angle. And that's very simply what drinkers most want to see improved, or the desired improvement, as we call it. Now, I threw this question out on LinkedIn about 2-3 weeks ago, and only 36% of people that responded identified the correct option. So just for a bit of fun, nothing too serious, let's rerun it today and see how we get on in this session, shall we, team? Really simple. What's the number one improvement desired by drinkers, in the on-premise? What's the thing across the entire channel that people would most like to see getting better? I'll give you a couple of options, team, okay? If you think it's more helpful staff, type staff. If you think it's having my favorite drinks available, type favorites or faves. And if you think it's about new drinks options, put new in the chat. So it's staff, faves, or new. What do you think? Fave, new. Oh, God, they're coming in too fast. I didn't expect people to be so on the button today. Favorite brands, staff. Lots of staffs, a few news. Okay. Now this is interesting. It's very often, particularly in the conversations that we have, people want to be radical. They want to disrupt. They want to innovate, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. It's good. It's positive. It's forward thinking, provided the basics are right. I'm sure you've probably all heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Excuse me. And you have that thing, self-actualization right at the top. Well, they'll tell you that to achieve that is impossible before you've got food and water and shelter sorted out. And it's very similar here. You have to get these basics right before you can then go and try and disrupt and upset and get things moving in a different direction. Hello, Ben. Good morning. It's good to have you with us. A few more news. So the answer, guys, is always ensure my favorite drinks are available. I don't know how many, what percentage. I'm going to guess it was probably around the 30-40% mark. Got that right on this occasion as well. Now, I'm not suggesting that armed with this slide, you all head out into venues and go, hey, look, got the answer. As always, of course, when you roll up to total channel view, you can miss the nuances that lie beneath. So this is the split, in fact, by venue type across pubs, bars, and restaurants. Now, I've included the top 2 improvements, actually, in each case to give you a bit of context so you can see where the favourites appears. Otherwise, it might be slightly misleading. Promotions, by the way, in terms of pubs, the second option on pubs, that's actually less about price in this channel, and it's more just about encouraging people to try new things. So in pubs, that's the second most desired improvement. The drinkers there want to see more encouragement to try new things. They're in a trialing and an experimentation mindset, and that's something they want to see more of. So that's a very important aspect. Get your focus on what needs to be improved, understand what it is by venue, and of course, as you then go down through into the lower levels, you're going to do it by drink type, and of course, you connect this back up to your shopper profile, and you're going to get different nuances through there as well. So, framework that we've got to build upon, a set of key questions to explore, not exhaustive, but certainly some critical ones in there. And then in terms of implementation, you have some notion of what needs improving and how that differs by venue type. So next, let's say you have those basics in hand. You have that good handle on your on-premise DNA. You have to now get to grips with the decisions your target drinkers are making so that you can position yourself to influence those decisions and those choices. And this is where I'm going to bring Ming in to share some more goodness with us. So Ming, over to you. What does this look like?
Yeah, so this is another one of those aspects that I know the industry really struggles with at times. So even if you do have a good handle on who your customer is, the next thing to contend with is how they're making their decision so you can target them more effectively. So there's different ways at looking at this, but this is one helpful paradigm, and that's to break the topic into 2. So in the most simplistic way, you can look at venue choices and drink choices. So put them together and you've got a pretty good appreciation of the key moments in the path to purchase and the different paths that drinkers are most likely to take. So this isn't a comprehensive view, but it does highlight some of the most crucial areas that you want to be investigating. So we'll start on the left, which is venue choice. Your first level of interrogation is at occasions and characteristics. So venue choice and occasion are very closely linked. And once you have a good handle on that, you can partner more effectively with venues, especially when you've got your profiling or your DNA sorted, which is the who that we talked about already. And then you've got venue characteristics. So we have a few operators on the session today. So hello. And this is where you can either really capitalize on the attributes your venue already has or concentrate on those that are most likely to resonate with your target audience. And again, connect this back to your DNA learnings, layer your drink choices over the top, which I'll touch on in a moment. But from there, you can go into more granular level. So what is their venue path? Is it to a club, then a bar, then home? Or is it a club, then straight home? And so that's the venue side of choice. And then on the right-hand side, you've got drinks choice. So this is where I'm going to focus on with a little bit more detail today. And we won't have time to go through all the dimensions that you see here, but we'll look at just the planned drinkers and what triggers them pre-venue. So if we consider just the drinks choice component today, the first and arguably most important decision point is where do we communicate with our target drinker? Where are they making their drink choice? Is it pre-venue or in venue? And David's already pulled it up, but the answer is 55%. So more than half of on-prem drinkers have decided on the category they'll drink before they go into the venue. Now, for some context, you'll see up on the screen, this planned percentage is less than your grocery and in the off-premise as well. So grocery is 7 in 10 shoppers, and then off-prem is 3/4 of shoppers being planned. But 55% in the on-prem is still a material number, and it gives you the confidence about where you're investing in marketing and comms. And great to know. But next question I know you'll have is, what should your lead message be? So the ability to benchmark one type of drink or a type of venue versus another is super important if you're building a shopper-centric strategy. Just because something's important to one group, it doesn't mean you've got a real opportunity, and it doesn't tell you how much emphasis you should put on it. So what really makes the difference is where you can establish the relative importance of a factor to a benchmark. And that's when you can start to really be more targeted, more precise, and more cost effective. So speaking to a lot of liquor businesses now, there was a recent example where a supplier invested heavily in a campaign across multiple touch points. And the mentality there was, it's fine, put it all out there. If you can assess the relative value post-implementation, that's great. But the question is, why do this? If you can use some metrics to help pinpoint what is most likely to gain you traction or leverage with your target audience in advance, and save you some costs there as well. So this is what's going on here. So we asked Australians in the on-prem, why did you plan to drink this type of drink on this occasion? So on the left-hand side, you can see the top 5 responses with the corresponding percentages for the total channel. Then you'd want to break that down by venue, or in this example, we've broken it out by drink type. And just for illustration today, we've pulled out beer, wine, and RTD, but we also have the spirits and the cider data on hand as well if you want to reach out to us. I've also pulled back from showing all the percentages, so you can just concentrate on the over and under indexes. So greens are your over indexes, reds and yellows are the under indexes versus the total channel benchmark, and grays just in line with total channel. So from here, you can really see clearly the pattern that evolves as you move from beer, wine to RTD. So beer, their choice of drink is much more likely to be a decision based on their usual or favorite. And then wine, no surprises, over-indexing in what their meal is. And then with RTD, if this is the department you play in, that's where word of mouth and messages around trial and exploration are key. So this tells you which aspects are the ones that should be highly prominent in your pre-venue comms. And so make sure you're not trying to just cover all the bases. It's expensive and it's probably not going to give you a better cut through. It's better to know in advance and be precise in your investments here.
Thanks, Bing. So let's just pause there for a second. We've haven't had any questions so far, so it's all either phenomenally clear and simple and straightforward, or we've lost people. So let me just check. Eliza, thank you. With the over under indexes, are you able to provide the percentages? We have the percentages, so yes, we are able to do that. What are your thoughts, team out there? Do you feel, in light of that 55% that we talked about earlier, 55% of choices are being made pre-venue, do you feel enough emphasis is going pre-venue, or is too much of it still associated with the in-venue experience? Maybe just put a yes, put a no, put more pre needed, more in-venue needed. Just give us some sense of what you're thinking. What are your thoughts versus where you see the industry today? Don't have to talk about yourselves. Don't talk about your business if you don't feel comfortable. Just give us a sense of what do you think is going on out there. Sample group, yeah, we'll touch on all that stuff at the end, Ben, very quickly. Yeah, in venue, thank you. More in venue, more pre-needed, says Kylie. Yes, okay. And this is, I think, good context as well, because you saw those figures much higher, of course, in grocery. And I'm trying to think what off-prem is off the top of my head. What's off-prem again, Min?
Sorry, what's off-prem?
What's the off-prem figure? About 70%.
70.
75. Yes, that's right. So much higher proportions. And we've spoken to a lot of you actually just in the last few months about the shift in the off-premise, where it's moving more into the store as far as decision making is concerned. But nevertheless, 55% is still a material proportion. So question yourself against what's going on in your business, and then of course start to get under the skin by venue type again, by drink type, and see what the key drivers and what the key triggers are. How are drinkers influenced in venue? Great question, Mike. We have the answers to that. Not going into it in much detail today, but shout us and we will talk to you about that a little later for sure. So follow up with you after that. Damien French, thank you very much. 75%. Yes, you're right. Indeed. I should have known that really, but it just escaped me for a second. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Right then, let's keep going. Thank you everyone for getting back on the chat. That has relieved me that everyone was still there and still listening in. So that actually brings us now 25 minutes in to our final piece of today's jigsaw, making sure that you emphasize your brands where they really count. So where's it really going to matter most for you to make sure your brand is visible and engaging the on-premise drinker? Straight back to you, Ming. Where does brand really count?
So in a nutshell, brand does matter. But as the title says, it matters in the context that it does matter in. So I'm going to put a question out there for all of you. How many people in the on-prem do you think will go and buy the brand that they consumed in a liquor store? So if you think half, go ahead and type 50 in the chat function. If you think more, type more. If you think less, type less. 85s, 80s, so quite high. 75.
Oh, 30 from Darius. He's the low baller. Got 40, Stephanie.
Got a 20 in there too.
We have. Good. Gab, good to see you. 80%. Good guess. Anyone else want to have a stab before we move on? You going to do the big reveal? Should we do it?
Yep, go for it. 3 and 4, so 75%. So I saw some people were bang on there as well. So 3 out of 4 drinkers told us they're likely to buy the brand they consumed in the off-prem. And you can see when David pulls it up, it's a little bit higher amongst the RTD shoppers. So here it's even more imperative to make your brand visible and engage the on-prem drinker. So 89% in RTD. So on-prem venues are clearly very fertile ground for brands, and brand does matter here. But in order to make these recommendations to your venue partners, we need to understand something about mindset. What is the drinker's mindset as they move from venue type to venue type? How do they approach which brand they choose? So there's 2 important statements here that I'll highlight. First one is, I don't mind paying a bit more for better quality or something different. And the second is, I'm usually willing to consider lower priced brands. So overall in the total on-prem, there's a net favorable score of 60% that are willing to pay more for quality. So good trade up, good upsell potential. And it's worth noting that 60%, that's 20% higher than the willingness of off-prem shoppers to pay more. So it's generally less risk for drinkers to trial something more expensive in the on-prem because they won't be stuck with the whole bottle. And then on the other hand, just a little over a third of on-prem drinkers, so 38%, will consider lower priced brands. So although there is a strong potential to drive higher tier here, a mindset for value still exists. So you don't get priced out of consideration. Up on the screen, we'll have a little fun as well. We have our 3 major groups. So you've got pubs, bars, and restaurants. And I want to see where you guys think drinkers in these different venues sit. So overall, the score for willingness to pay more for premium is 60%. And then willing to consider lower price brands is 38%. Which group out of these 3 do you think is the most open to premium trade up, and which are the least open? So use the chat function. If you think bar drinkers are the most open to premium, then pubs, then restaurants, type in BPR. If you think restaurants, then bars, then pubs, type in RBP, etc. Or you can type the whole word in, RBP.
I mean, you're really looking forward to this one, weren't you?
Yeah.
It's good. It's working. Look, people have got it.
Very fast to read. So.
There's no way we can track this, but we'll go through it afterwards, and it'll be really interesting reading. We'll let you know what people thought. A lot of RBPs. Old BRPs. Yeah, no, that's good. A lot of RBPs.
So a lot of people think restaurants is the most open to premium.
Yep. James. Hello, James. Just seeing James on. RBPs. Nobody's written RIP, so that's good. Okay, shall we have a look?
Yeah. So it's RPB. So what drinkers tell us, it's that in restaurants, they're very open to premium. So there's a willingness of 68% here. And they're relatively unlikely to try cheaper brands. So the value is at 23% there. Then pubs is next. So the premium willingness level is 50%. And the value willingness is 35%. But then it's bars where premium is high, so 69%, but so too is value at 56%. So quite interesting. And this will all have implications on your strategy, depending where your brand plays and also which venue type you're playing in.
Yeah, that is interesting actually, because I think I didn't see many RPBs. So restaurant, I think most people got that right as coming out on top. But yeah, surprisingly, from a bar drinker's perspective, what they've told us is yes, there's a high degree of openness to the trade up, but there's also a substantial proportion, a significant proportion of shoppers that are willing to consider those lower price bands. And actually the differential between the two is very, very similar if you net one off against the other in pubs and bars, which I think is something that people are less likely to have expected or anticipated, given the responses I can see on the screen here. And that's going to affect the kind of brand mix, the kind of positioning, the kind of conversations that you'll be having with bar operators and pub operators, because this has a material impact on the mix that you're going to be wanting to present and the kind of results that you're going to get based on the activations you're trying to put out there.
Yeah, so brand where it counts. So we've got this upsell potential, especially in restaurants, but balanced with the willingness to trade down in certain areas of the channel too. A bit fast, David. Final thing we'll touch on today.
It's too fast.
It's all right. I'll talk to it anyway. So this is what we'll touch on lastly today, but it's around where your brand is going to get seen. So there's a few questions in the chat around, what are the best touch points or which touch points are the most effective. And this is where I'll talk to a little bit. So we've talked about the planned drinker. So remember, it was 55% planned in the on-prem, which is relatively lower than your grocery and your off trade. But in this example, we're just going to touch on the impulsive drinker. So that's the other 45% that make their category decision in venue. So they decide what they're going to drink while they're already in the venue. Well, 47% of this impulsive group, they tell us that they use a drinks list to help make their decision. And this has risen over the last couple of years. It really accelerated by COVID, with drinkers having to stay seated in venue while they're drinking. So the drinks list definitely plays a role in impulse purchases, but it's less likely to be the single pivotal thing that influences choice. So only 29% said that the drinks list was the main reason of choice here. So there are other levels that need pulling. Could be brand activations, it could be your bartender's recommendation, or simply just being visible on the back bar. And if we tie this all back into brand name is only the third most important piece of information on the list. So on-prem drinkers told us that flavor or varietal and really clear price information were more valuable to them in helping make their decision if they're impulsive or unplanned drinkers. So really make sure you're present wherever their eyes are going, but don't obsess around brand alone. Other information needs to be prominent as well, and there are other levers to pull.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Now I'm just casting my eye through past all the 75% and the BRPs, trying to get back to some questions that were asked early on. I know the whole concept of the new one though as well, Ming, the concept of the drinks list. Is it something? Do you think something that people overemphasize in the industry? Is more weighting put on it versus, well, certainly what we're seeing here statistically from drinkers?
I think it really depends on what department or category you're playing in as well. So DM just put a question out there. Do you have these percentages by category? And I'd say that's where you'd have to dig in next, so you know how much emphasis to put on there. And as I said, I think it's more important now, post-COVID or in a COVID world when we're not in lockdown, where you do need to put more emphasis on the drinks list.
Sure. Yes, indeed. I think the reason why this was an interesting view that we pulled out, right, was because, and in answer to one of the questions we've had, yes, we have asked the question: what were the triggers, what were the influences to your decision in venue? And that's how we know that 29% of those impulsive drinkers, so 29% of those people who made their decision in venue, were driven predominantly or mainly by the drinks list. So it is in there. It does play a role, but as Ming said, we can't obsess over it, and it isn't just a question of getting brand in there as well. There are other pieces of information that need to be prominent. And again, as Ming said, I just want to underscore that point that when you get down into specific departments and you look at your department or category and venue combination, and again, go all the way back up to the DNA, to the specific shopper profile, drinking profile that you have, you're going to find some different things out there. And I'll say this obviously for the sake of illustration. We've gone in at the highest levels, so you got some elevator comments to take away with you. But certainly, you're going to want to build this out into a specific plan at a more granular level. So, thank you very much, Ming. We have touched on some of these questions already, but I'll go and have a look at some of them in a bit more detail now. So one of the questions was, or two similar ones really associated. Do we have a view on the in-venue triggers, and what are the path to purchase touch points in the last 3 feet? What do they look like? So the simple answer is yes, we do. Everything ranging from the taps at the bar caught my eye. We've got displays behind the bar. I saw it in the chiller cabinet, or the chiller or the fridge behind the bar, and bar staff recommendations in there as well. So yes, we have all that, and it can be cut into, and of course we have drinks list as well. So you know the proportions that are at play, or we can share that information with you through the full analysis. What else did I spot? Spirits. Do we have spirits? Simple answer is yes. Yes. Again, just for illustration, we've tried to strip things back a little bit, but we do have spirits, cider, beer, RTDs, and wine. And I think somebody was asking the sample size, which was up on the early slide, which was just short of 1,200 drinkers this time round. And I spotted another one as well from Eliza, which was about seasonality. And yes, there's some seasonality going to be at play. This research we conducted, fortunately, as it turned out, when we had an opportunity to do it between April and June. Bearing in mind, we were actually originally due to run this research about 18 months ago, so it's been on hold for quite some time. Yes, there's going to be some seasonality that's going to make some variations. I guess where we're starting from at this moment in time is thinking about that black hole, just thinking about that absence of anything really that is what people feed back to me. This is a very solid starting point. And it's a place from which you can build and add sample and put into field in a more continuous sense in the future. But starting from somewhere, this is or starting from a low base, this is certainly a good place to be at. Do we have these percentages by category? Yes, in some cases, depends what the sample is. So we haven't quoted down into category in this piece of work, but we do also then roll it back up into a level beneath department, but above category. So we've got total red wine, total white wine, total sparkling, and so on and so forth. Light spirits, dark spirits, to give a bit more granularity. So all these questions, great questions, and very happy to and indeed keen to talk to you more about this sort of stuff in more detail if you'd like us to. So with that, going to give you all a bit of time back, folks. Wrap up, quick checklist. What have we shared with you today? Well, get specific. Here's a structure. Use a structure, get a structure in place to help you profile who your drinkers are. Map their DNA very carefully, very consistently, and be able to go and talk as a starting point to your customers, to your venue partners, about who that shopper and who that drinker is. That's point one. Point two was then all around the focus on choices, the second ring of that framework. Work systematically. You've got your venue choices, you've got your drink choices, and target the right trigger pre and during. We had some people saying that they thought that there was more emphasis going on in venue, some pre. Make sure that you've got the balance right. We say it across grocery, we say it across off-premise. It's exactly the same in this channel as well. And then last but not least, makes absolute sense, right? You want to be putting your focus, putting your dollar, putting your effort where it's going to really count for your brand. There's a huge opportunity, not only for cross-selling into off-premise, but upselling as well, depending on exactly where you're operating in on-premise. And the fundamental to that is accounting for the differing mindset. Mindset is coming up again and again and again as we talk about shoppers in the current world. And it's just as true again here across venue and across drink. And I'll just close that one out again by going back, I guess, to that Maslow's hierarchy of needs comment that I made earlier, because within all of this, we can tell you very specifically how drinkers approach a particular drink type or a particular venue and the combination thereof. And it serves very well, just as it does in off-premise and just as it does in grocery, to make sure that you're targeting that. Just like you want to make sure you're delivering on the important things, making sure that they are delivered excellently. So focusing on the specific mindset, well, understanding it first and then focusing on it is hugely important to you, as we hope things start to open up again very, very soon. Now, final thing for you. At the start, we talked about the black hole, the need for more insights. We really do want to help you get over that stuff, and we've got the tools to do that, to help you. If you want to know more, if you have on-premise questions you want answered, let's talk. I know you're busy, so all you have to do is type drink in the chat right now, and we will get in touch with you after this session. Very simple. We'll do the rest of the work. I guarantee you will either get an email or a phone call, and we will answer any questions that you have in order to see if we can help you grow your on-premise business. Besides that, stay connected in the case team. Follow us on LinkedIn if you're not already. Get all the latest updates that we share on a regular basis, myself, Ming, the rest of the team, in on-premise, off-premise, and more. And all that remains is for us to say goodbye. Bye, Ming.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
See you all next time. Stay safe, and bye for now.